My CEO fiancé said the company was struggling, so he cut my salary in half. But then I saw his little assistant flaunting on Snapchat. My boss didn't just give me a raise, he even bought me a luxury car because he was worried about my commute. So thoughtful. In the picture, she and my fiancé stood in front of a brand new high-end car, beaming with happiness. I paused for 2 seconds and tapped like. That evening, my fiancé called an urgent meeting, using my disruption of company morale as an excuse. He docked my entire month's salary and gave it to his assistant as compensation for her distress. Everyone looked at me with pity, expecting me to throw a fit, but I calmly packed my things from my desk and handed him my resignation. Just docking salary isn't enough for bullying a colleague, is it? I'll resign myself. The moment I finished speaking, Chloe, Connor's assistant, jumped in. Harper, how can you resign over such a small thing? You've been with the company for so long, and Connor has always been so good to you. If you quit now, at this crucial moment, what will everyone think of him? Connor, you should try to convince Harper too. Connor probably had been planning to stop me, but after listening to Chloe, his anger flared. He scoffed. Convince her. Why? If she wants to leave, let her. I've done nothing wrong. I am not afraid of what anyone thinks or says. And without hesitation, he signed my resignation letter and threw the paper in my face. The watching colleagues were stunned. A good friend from my team quickly whispered for me to just apologize, to not let my emotions get the best of me. Almost everyone present knew that I had helped Connor build this company from the ground up. When the company was short on funds, I practically drank myself sick to secure investments. When deadlines loomed, I was the one leading the team, pulling all-nighters for days on end. I poured my heart and soul into every single project. Now the company had completed its funding rounds and was about to go public. No one in their right mind would leave at a time like this. But I remained calm, picking up the resignation letter from the floor. I'll leave after I've handed over my work. No need for a handover. Get out now. Connor pointed at the door, his voice cold and unwavering. Seeing this, I said nothing, just waved goodbye to a few colleagues, picked up my bag and left. Before walking out, I glanced back at Connor. I clearly saw a flicker of complex emotion in his usually composed eyes. I knew exactly why. He thought I wouldn't leave. We'd had arguments before, but I'd always regret it shortly after leaving, returning to him as if nothing had happened, apologizing and going back to work, as usual. But he probably didn't realize this time was different. My patience with him had finally run out. I walked to the parking garage. I found my beat-up old car, the one I'd driven for 10 years, its paint scratched and faded in several places. Next to it was a brand new top-of-the-line Porsche, the exact one Connor had just given Chloe today. There were plenty of empty spaces in the garage, but she deliberately parked it right here. I understood. It was a clear challenge. It wasn't just two cars. It was like the two of us. Connor and I had been together for 10 years, yet I was worth less than Chloe, who'd only been here for 10 months. I gave a self-deprecating laugh and got into my car. Just then, a text message came through. I opened it and saw a transfer from Liam, my friend. This morning, when Connor said the company wasn't doing well and he was cutting my salary, I'd worried he was under too much stress. I immediately contacted Liam and arranged for a $50,000 loan. I'd intended to give it to Connor, but then I'd accidentally seen Chloe's Snapchat post about Connor getting her a new car. Surprisingly, my heart had been perfectly calm. No sadness, no raging jealousy. Perhaps it was because it had happened too many times. Chloe had been specially recruited by Connor, even though her work ability was abysmal. Yet Connor, who was usually so serious and rigorous about work, tolerated her mistakes again and again. From minor things, like ordering plain water for a client and a bubble tea for herself during meetings, to major blunders like sending the bottom line price list instead of the official quote to a partner, causing the company to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. Whenever I held Chloe accountable, Connor would unhesitatingly stand in front of her, looking utterly annoyed with me. Chloe just graduated. Isn't it normal to make some mistakes? Why are you so harsh on new hires? Over time, Chloe grew increasingly brazen, to the point where she didn't even acknowledge me anymore. Soon, I left the garage. As the parking barrier lifted, my car suddenly jolted. Realizing I'd been rear-ended, I stepped out, only to see Connor and Chloe walking out of the car behind me, holding hands. Oh, sorry, Harper. Is that you? Chloe immediately walked up, looking at her car's dented hood with exaggerated concern. But why did you brake so suddenly? I didn't even have time to react. Such a shame. Connor just got me this new car. Connor's face was dark as he glared at me. Were you doing this on purpose? Did you know Chloe was behind you and deliberately braked to get back at her? I almost laughed at his audacity. It was always like this, blindly placing the blame on me without any reason. Before I could even speak, Chloe's eyes welled up. Connor, don't blame Harper. She just quit because of me. It is normal for her to be angry. It is all my fault. Really saying this, she clenched her fist and, as if in agony, moved to hit her forehead, only to subtly pull her punch at the last second. Connor, however, didn't see through it. His eyes filled with concern as he gently rubbed her forehead. It has nothing to do with you. Don't take everything upon yourself. Then he turned his furious gaze back to me, getting angrier the more he thought about it. He angrily poked my forehead. Harper, can't you learn from Chloe and take some responsibility? She knows how to be modest, and you, after working for so many years, are still so childish and arrogant. He pushed me back a couple of steps. Once I recovered, I found it almost laughable. For the past year, Chloe had been constantly stealing my credit, playing mind games and framing me, and now she was modest and responsible, while I was childish and arrogant. Knowing that further conversation would be a waste of breath, I didn't bother to say anything more and turned to leave. Wait, Connor suddenly stopped me. I expected him to lecture me again defending Chloe, but to my surprise, he pulled me aside. He spoke with a serious, almost paternal tone. Harper, my attitude towards you today was indeed extreme, but I also have high expectations of you, which is why I am so strict. I was still somewhat confused by his gentle words. However, I soon understood his intention. Connor smiled faintly at me and patted my shoulder. I'll withdraw your resignation. Just come to work as usual, but find a time to publicly apologize to Chloe. Also, you are fully responsible for this rear-end collision, and I'll deduct the compensation amount from your salary. It all clicked. I scoffed, looking up at Chloe. She probably knew exactly what Connor was going to say. Her face was full of smugness, and she winked at me provocatively. I sneered. No thank you. We can check the surveillance cameras to see whose fault the collision was. If not, just call the police. I have somewhere to be. I am leaving. With that, I walked straight away. Connor was fuming behind me. I've given you a chance. Don't you dare regret this. Regret? Never. I got back in my car and sent a message to Liam. I've resigned. I can start working at your company tomorrow. Less than half a second later, Liam called back, his voice full of surprise. Are you serious? He sounded a little unsure. Are you sure you don't want to talk to Connor again? Liam and Connor had started their companies around the same time. Compared to Connor, who started from scratch, Liam had more resources and more attractive benefits. Liam desperately needed excellent technical talent, so he'd promised me higher shares and profits if I'd come help them. He even made an exception and offered me a part-time role, even after knowing my relationship with Connor. But for Connor's sake, I had always unequivocally refused. When I was at my lowest, almost freezing to death in the snow, it was Connor who dragged me into the police station and saved my life. I was incredibly grateful to him, so I'd abandoned everything and dedicated myself entirely to the business, finding every possible way to help Connor's company grow step by step. But now, it seemed he didn't care. Besides, after all these years, no matter how you looked at it, I'd repaid his debt of gratitude enough. I didn't need to put myself through this anymore. No need. I can make make my own decisions. After chatting with Liam for a few more minutes and confirming the contract signing time, I drove home first to grab the necessary documents. I expected Connor to be out until late, as usual. To my surprise, not long after, he walked into the living room, his face beaming with joy, while on the phone with Chloe. Seeing me, his face instantly darkened. He intentionally rolled his eyes at me, then pushed open the bedroom door and went inside. I knew he was waiting for me to go and soothe him. Every time we argued at the company, I would find ways to apologize and ask for his forgiveness. Even if he was the one in the wrong, I had to swallow my pride and admit fault. Before, I thought it was my duty, whether to repay his kindness or to maintain our relationship. I should always indulge him, but now, I just found it tiresome. I focused on searching for things in the drawer. Not long after, he walked out of the room, his face dark. Chloe's car is fixed. Is yours fixed yet? I knew this was his signal, an olive branch of sorts. In the past, I would have immediately felt that he had forgiven me and gone to appease him, but now I didn't even look up. I said calmly, it is just a beat-up old car, not worth fixing. Connor frowned. What do you mean by that? I looked up at him, puzzled, not understanding what he was unhappy about now. This car had been scratched many times before, and when I suggested fixing it, he'd always said the same thing. I expected him to explode again, but to my surprise, he sighed. Chloe's work has been quite good lately. They gave her the car to retain her talent. You are my girlfriend, and when we get married, the company will be yours anyway. So why bother with salary amounts or compete with her? Harper, everything I do is for the company. I don't want other colleagues to think I am playing favorites with you. I was surprised that he was actually explaining himself to me. He'd never bothered to say such things before, but I knew deep down that these were just excuses. At the company, colleagues all knew how Connor treated Chloe and me. Projects I slaved over for 3 days. He'd suddenly on a whim hand them over to Chloe, and with just a simple PowerPoint presentation, they'd become her achievement. Clients I spent days negotiating with. On the verge of signing a contract, he'd use my name to take Chloe out to dinner with them, and suddenly the contract became Chloe's accomplishment. Such incidents were countless. Over time, other colleagues simply thought Connor favored Chloe more. They even believed Connor didn't like me, and because of this, I suffered many snubs and bullying at work, which he saw but pretended not to. I didn't want to explain, he'd just say I was making excuses anyway. Oh, I replied flatly, you don't need to tell me all this. I have nothing to do with the company anymore. You can do as you please. Connor didn't speak. Finally, he sighed. He walked over to me, lowered his head, and gently touched my face. Actually, I have a selfish reason too. I want you to take some time off and think about our wedding. When do you plan to marry me? He asked, smiling, but I had brought up marriage many times before, and each time he had refused. Every time we fought and he wanted to placate me, he would bring up marriage. Sometimes I felt less like his girlfriend and more like a dog he strung along. I remained silent. Connor, as if playing with a dog, scratched my chin. Don't be mad. Can you just smile for me? For saying this, he leaned in as if deliberately trying to please me and kissed my neck. He rarely initiated physical affection with me. In the past, I probably would have been thrilled. After his kiss, I would have taken the lead only to be pushed away and laughed at for being dirty-minded. Now, thinking about it, it just felt tiresome. I yanked his arm away, pulled out a wet wipe and scrubbed at my neck. Connor was thunderstruck, frozen in place. You are disgusted by me. I have to go out later. I am going to change, I said calmly, then turned to go back to my room. Connor tried to follow, but I unhesitatingly closed the door and locked it. Fine, Harper. Don't you dare regret this. Connor seemed genuinely furious. After his angry outburst, he kicked the door hard and stormed off. When I came out of the room, the living room was empty. In the company Snapchat group, Connor had sent a message inviting everyone out for dinner and asking who wanted to come. Complete silence followed. Only Chloe sent 3 happy emojis in a row. I knew Connor was deliberately trying to provoke me. This had happened many times before. Other colleagues were always reluctant to join, but Chloe was always enthusiastically responsive. In the past, I would have been so jealous that I would have gone along, only to be mocked by them. Now, I couldn't care less. I went straight to Liam's place and signed the contract. Liam was incredibly happy and specially arranged a celebratory dinner for me. After several rounds of drinks, when I went to the restroom, I heard familiar voices from the private room next door. I instinctively paused.